Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another PS4 jailbreak tutorial. So in this one, we're going to be taking a look at how you can update from a previous jailbreak to the new PSVue Jailbreak, which works up to firmware 13.0 for the PS4. Mainly because this jailbreak is generally faster to run and easier to use once you have it set up. And of course, unlike the retail method, when you're trying to install this on a retail console, you have to restore a backup that effectively resets your console. Whereas if you're going from a previous jailbreak to this one, you can install things manually using your previous jailbreak without having to reset your console. So I'm going to do a full guide here showing you guys how to switch from a previous jailbreak over to the PSVue Jailbreak. Now this jailbreak does have one fairly big downside at the moment, which of course is the fact that it requires a network connection to work. It does not require internet, but it does require a network connection. So just bear that in mind. I'll also show you guys how you can install this even if you do not have a USB drive available. So it's definitely worth considering switching to this or setting this up, especially if you're going from something like the PPPWON jailbreak or the Blu-ray jailbreak, as this one is generally more convenient to run once you have everything installed. So first of all, we want to make sure that we have the previous jailbreak already set up and that you are running Gold Hen on your console. So make sure you have got things set up to that point. Then what we're going to do is head over to our settings and get connected to the network by going to our network settings and then of course connecting to the internet and then setting up an internet connection. Then select whatever you normally use, Wi-Fi or LAN cable, use a custom setup, then choose automatic IP, do not specify DHCP and do a manual DNS setup. And of course, you want to set the DNS address to 62.210.8.117. And this is Nomadic's DNS server, which blocks game updates and system updates. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there and click Next, then choose Automatic MTU and do not specify proxy. And that should block the game updates. Now, if we go back into our settings and confirm this by going down to System Software Update and seeing if it says a DNS server cannot be used, that means the updates are being blocked. And yes, it is safe to do this if you're running Gold Hen, because Gold Hen has its own update blocker also built in. So even if it does find the latest system software update, it will fail to download and install. If it still manages to find the latest system software update, then that means the DNS server is not working, probably because your ISP or your router is overriding it. In that case, you'll need to simply set up your DNS settings again, and this time just use 127.0.0.1 or 127.0.0.2, which will prevent internet access, but it will also block the game updates and the system updates. So you can use that instead. And after applying those DNS settings, just confirm again that the system updates are in fact blocked. The next step is to go into the Gold Hen settings, then scroll down to the server settings, enable the FTP server, and note down the IP address and port number that show up in the notification. And then we can switch back over to our computer. So switching over to the computer, we want to download the latest version of the PSVue exploit. So scroll down and download the manual setup 7-zip file. Then we're going to head over to pkg-zone.com and download the latest version of the Apollo Save tool for PS4. If you already have Apollo installed, make sure you update it to the latest version. And then also from Cyro's Ko-Fi page, we want to download the latest version of Gold Hen. So go ahead and grab that as well. So that's what you need. Okay, so once you have everything downloaded, we're going to right-click and create a new folder on our computer called View, and we're just going to extract everything in here. I'll copy the Apollo folder in here. We'll open up the manual setup in 7-zip. You need 7-zip or WinRAR to open these. I'll leave a link to it in the description. If we open this up, we have a download0.dat file that we want to copy over into the View folder. Also open the save.zip and extract the PS4 folder also into your View folder. And then we also want to open up the Gold Hen 7-zip file and copy the Gold Hen payload also into that folder. Finally, if we open up the zip file which contains the PSVue application and the update, we can copy that also into the View folder, and I'll leave a link to that also in the video description. So now we can upload this via FTP. And I'll show you guys how you can install things using a USB drive as well, but FTP is generally going to be quicker. So if we open up an FTP client like FileZilla, enter the IP address of your PS4 in the host box, and then simply enter 2121 as the port number and click connect. Then we can go into the user folder, then the download folder, and in here we want to right-click and create a new directory called CUSA0000960, and then click OK to create that folder. Go into that folder, and that's where we want to copy our download0.dat file to. So from our folder where we have all of the files, we're going to take download0 and copy it in here. Now, if you get an error message saying critical file error and it fails to transfer, make sure you go to the transfer window up here, then go to transfer type and make sure it's selected on binary. Some of the newer versions of Goldhen change the way the FTP server is implemented, and when it's set to auto, it often doesn't work, or it tries to use ASCII, which doesn't work with the new server. So make sure you set it to binary, and then it should transfer over properly. And that will get the exploit itself installed. So now if we head back into the root directory and go into the data folder, in the data folder, we're going to copy the goldhen.bin file into this folder, then right click and rename it to payload.bin, just like that. Next, we're going to right click and create another new directory called pkg. Then we just want to copy all of the package files into the pkg folder. And then finally, we're going to right click and create another new directory called fic_usb in all lowercase characters. And we also want to go into that folder and copy the PS4 folder for the save file into that folder. And that gets everything you need copied over to the console storage. Now, if you want to use a USB drive instead, you just need to make sure your USB drive is formatted in XFAT or FAT32 format. Make sure the file system is in the correct format, and then you can just extract everything to the root of a USB drive instead, the same files, and just make sure Goldhen is renamed to payload.bin. If you're not using FTP to copy the download0 file, you'll need to use something like PS4 Explorer on the console itself to go into the user download directory and create the CUSA0000960 folder and copy the download0.dat file from the USB to that location on the hard drive using PS4 Explorer. Now we can switch back over to the console once more, then head over to the Goldhen settings, debug settings, package installer, and any package files that you have on the USB drive should show up in here. You can also switch it to the hard drive if you installed everything to the package folder on the hard drive. And then your package files will show up there, and you can click install all to install the package files onto the console. And that will get your Apollo Save tool installed. And also, of course, it will install the PlayStation Vue application, as well as the 1.24 update for PlayStation Vue. So, PlayStation Vue is now installed, but we cannot use it yet because we need to get the save file installed. So we're going to run the Apollo Save tool. Now, before we actually install the save, we need to head over to User Tools, then go to Activate PS4 Accounts, and just make sure that your account is activated. So if your account is activated, then you will not have zeros as the account ID in brackets. But you can see here, the user account I'm signed into has all zeros, which basically means it's not activated. So it will not be able to run the PlayStation Vue application. So you can either sign into an account that is activated, like one of these two ones that I've got here, or you can activate the account that's all zeros. So we can do that by selecting X to activate the account. And then we can just select a random ID and say done. And that will activate the account. But it does say a reboot is required. So make sure you reboot the console and rerun the jailbreak in order for the activation to take effect. So back on the PS4, after activating the account, if we go back to User Tools and activate PS4 account just to check, we can see that the user account now has a proper PS4 ID. So that means the account is activated, so we should be good to move to the next step, which is to go to the USB Saves section. And in here, you can see you have application data. If that's not showing up, then make sure you head into the settings and change the USB save source. Make sure it's selected on auto detect, and then the save file should show up. If not, you can specify a USB port, either a physical USB or fake USB, which is the one in the data folder on the hard drive. Otherwise, it should work on auto detect. And then we can head over to our USB saves section, and we should have the save file showing up, which is the application data. We are going to select that with X, then apply changes and resign. Then go down and copy save game to HDD to make sure that gets copied over correctly. And then finally, just for good measure, to make sure it's definitely resigned to the correct account, we can go to HDD saves. And you can press square to refresh and make sure that the PlayStation-VUE user preferences appears in here. And you can also select it and apply changes and resign here as well, just to make sure it is properly resigned to your account. Now, one other important thing is to only run the PlayStation-VUE application on the account that has the save file installed for it. If you have multiple accounts on your PS4 and you want to load PlayStation-VUE on all of them, then obviously make sure you sign out of your current account, sign into the other accounts, and repeat the same process of copying the save file over with Apollo on those accounts as well. Because the last thing you want to do is sign into the wrong account and load PlayStation-VUE without the save file installed, because that can actually corrupt the save file that is installed to the correct account and mess up the entire exploit. So yeah, make sure you are only loading PlayStation-VUE on the account that has the save file installed for it, or make sure you install the save file on all the accounts that you have on your PS4. Then, we can press circle to exit out of the Apollo Save tool. So once the Apollo Save tool is closed, we can run the PlayStation-VUE application on the account that has the save file installed for it, and we should be able to get up and running here. You will get an error message. Just click OK to the message about PlayStation Network, and we are now up and running. The other thing you can do while you're still running the jailbreak is go into the payload menu and run the fake signin.bin file. But only run this if you are getting that error message about being signed into PlayStation Network when you open the PlayStation-VUE application. Only if you are getting that message should you run the fake signin.bin file. And that should fix the issue. It will tell you to reboot the console, but we can reboot later. So fake sign in by Earth Onion. And then we have signed in, reboot to apply. So now we can go back and go into the config menu and configure the autoloader for when we use PlayStation-VUE to jailbreak the console. So obviously, if you are on firmware 12.02 or below, you can use the lapse kernel exploit, which is the more stable kernel exploit. So you can select that option, select auto close to automatically close PlayStation-VUE once the jailbreak has completed. And you can also disable the music if you want and change the jailbreak behavior to lapse. So make sure it is selected on that if you are on 12.02 or below. If you are on a higher firmware than 12.02, like 12.50, 12.52, or 13.0, then the lapse exploit is not compatible. So you'll have to use poopsploit instead. So select auto poop, then change the jailbreak behavior to net control instead. Configure it like this if you're on a firmware higher than 12.02. I'm on 12.52, so I will configure it like this and then go back. So we can now press back to go into the main menu and then simply exit out of PlayStation-VUE. And now we can restart our PS4 and see if we can jailbreak it using the PlayStation-VUE application. Okay, so after restarting the PS4, we're no longer running Gold Hen. As you can see, we're not jailbroken. So now we're going to run the PlayStation-VUE application again, and you can see this time we no longer get the fake sign-in, and it auto runs the jailbreak. So it does not give us the menu, it just goes straight into jailbreaking. And there we go, we are now up and running with the jailbreak, and Gold Hen is loaded. So you can see how fast this jailbreak runs. It is incredibly fast once you have everything set up. And we were able to set this up without having to reset the console. So it's definitely worth setting this up
so that you can at least try this alongside your previous jailbreak and then decide which one you like better. So one last thing you should do, if you have a USB drive, plug it into your PS4, then head over to Settings, scroll down to Application Save Data Management, save data in System Storage, and copy to USB storage device. Select the PlayStation-Vue application data and copy it to your USB drive so you can always restore it if the save file gets corrupted. For example, if you load PlayStation-Vue on the wrong account, or if the save file gets reset, which can happen, you'll always have the save file on the USB that you can restore to get PlayStation-Vue working again to jailbreak the console. So this is definitely a recommended step. But anyway, that's the general idea of how you can get the PlayStation-Vue jailbreak setup from a previous jailbreak to this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.